Hi, I'm Kimmy with On William Street, and we are here to help you become a more confident quilter from the piecing to the quilting and everything in between. This week, we're going to show you an easy way to baste your quilts. I have to admit, I think one of my absolute least favorite parts of quilting is basting the quilt. You have the top all done, the back, everything's ready to go, you're ready to quilt it, and now you have to put it together. And it usually entails time crawling around on the floor, my back aches, I'm trying to pin things, trying to find a spot flat enough to lay this whole quilt out to get it to lay smooth, dealing with all the wrinkles, and it can be very, very tedious. But we're gonna share a method today that's gonna simplify things a little bit, and we're gonna use some noodles, pool noodles, and show you how you can use these to baste your quilt quicker and easier and with much less back pain. So we are actually going to be basting our quilt on top of our dining room table. So that's going to make it a lot easier, not bending over as far. You don't have to worry about as much space to spread out. So you definitely want to have the biggest space possible. If you have a little bit of a smaller table, this will still work. It might just be a little bit more finagling, but it will still be okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is we need to roll all of our different parts. We're going to roll our quilt top, our quilt batting, and our quilt backing separately. So we are going to need 3 noodles. When you're looking for what noodles to use, definitely get the longest ones you can find. If it doesn't quite reach the whole length of your quilt, that's fine. You can still use it, but the longer, the better. It's going to make it easier to roll it originally. So now what I'm going to do here is we have our top down first, and I'm going to put it so that it's facing right side up so that we make sure that it goes on the right way. And I'm actually going to start rolling from the bottom of the quilt. So I'm going to push it so I have the bottom of the quilt sitting on my table. And don't worry, I did just mop my floors this morning, so we're good putting the quilt on the floor, on my dining room floor. Sometimes it's not quite so safe. And what I'm going to do is make sure this is pressed as well before you get started, and you're just going to put the noodle along the top, and you're going to start rolling. Keep it as tight as you can, because that's going to make it easier later on. So take this a little bit slow, and try to keep it square as well. So try to keep the edges all lined up. I'm actually using my sashing as well to make sure that things are staying nice and square. And then just as you roll it on, slowly work it down on the length of the quilt until the whole thing is rolled on. So if you take the time to make sure there aren't wrinkles in it now, it's going to make it easier when we put the layers together. Okay, now that I've got the top on and ready to go, I'm going to repeat with the batting and the backing. These ones though, I want to make sure the batting, make sure that the right side is up as well. But then when you get to the backing, to put the backing on, you want to make sure that it is right side down, because we want to make sure that that center seam when you've pieced your backing, or else the wrong side of the fabric is inside of the quilt sounder. So put this one right side touching your table when you roll the backing on. So now I have my 3 noodles ready to go. Okay, so this method is going to work whether you're spray basting or whether you're pin basting. So don't worry about that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unroll enough of my backing. And again, make sure that your backing is pressed if you need to ahead of time. That's going to make it a lot easier when you come quilting later. You don't have to worry about puckers and tucks and stuff because it wasn't pressed properly. Then I'm going to take the batting and I'm just going to unroll enough to fit the table. I'm not going to worry about going any farther than what fits on the table. Now I'm going to take the batting and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to line it up along the bottom so that it lines up along that edge there. Well, this will technically be the top of the quilt. And roll it out. And then just take the time to make sure that everything is smooth. This makes it so that you're only dealing with a small area, so you can make sure that folds, creases, everything is laid out nice and smooth. And then after I have it on, If I'm spray basting, I'm gonna spray this section before I add the top. So what you can do now is quite easily lift up the batting, spray, spray, and then smooth it back out, okay? If you're pin basting, you don't need to worry about that yet because we're not gonna do anything until we get to the top. So after I've sprayed that, I've laid that one out, now I'm ready to add the top. We're gonna do the same thing, come up to the end, and then just unroll. Again, if we're spray basting now at this point, lift this up, add my spray, and then put this section back down. If I am pin basting, now at this point, I can actually even unroll a little bit further here, fill the table. At this point, that's where you could come in and then just start adding your pins. And you've also got the table space to work on, so you're not worried about sticking pins in carpet and getting it stuck in carpet. But be careful, you can, scratch your top of your table if that's something that's important. Make sure to watch for that and not scrape your top with the pins. After this section is done, we're just going to push all 3 noodles off the edge of the table, and then just unroll the top. And at this point, you should have enough weight at the front that it should stay pretty smooth. And I'm gonna spray this if I'm spray basting, and then just very slowly unroll the batting right on. If there's any little areas you need to smooth out, you're going to smooth that out, and then spray again, and then roll out the top. And again, making sure to smooth it as you go. Or if we're pinning, now come in and pin the next section. Push it off the end of the table. Roll it back a little bit farther. Again, making sure everything's nice and smooth, using the weight of that quilt on the front to your advantage. Smooth it out, spray as needed if you're spray basting, smooth out the batting. And then spray again and smooth out the top. And you can see I'm not bent over, I'm not crawling around on the ground, I'm not pinning carpet, I'm not having to worry about moving a lot of furniture. I'm able to do this all very easily on the table. So we just have a little bit farther, and then you just roll out the end, the last little bit, do the last little bit of spraying, the last little bit of pinning, and you are ready to go. Now at this point I would trim off this little bit extra batting and then set your noodles aside for the next time. If you are going to use the pool noodle method a lot, I would definitely buy yourself noodles that are just for quilting. If they're being used for swimming as well, they might get dirty and you don't want to be transferring that to your quilt top. But as you can see, we now very quickly and very easily have our quilt already basted and ready to take to the sewing machine and quilt it. So if you have any questions on this method or other questions pertaining to quilting, don't hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to help and try to make this a little bit simpler for you, help you understand it a little bit better. And as always, if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified whenever we post a new video so you don't miss anything. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you sign up for our email newsletter on our website, you'll get access to our subscriber library with lots of fun projects. And you'll also get, whenever we have deals or coupons, you'll be notified of those as well. And we will see you next week.